How can a perfectly round metallic sphere with no wings, no seams, and no visible propulsion fly? Witnesses in Colombia observed the object gliding with purpose until it struck high-voltage power lines and dropped to the ground.
March 17, 2025. A metal sphere fell from the sky in Colombia and refused to break. Scientists cut, scanned, and tested it, but nothing made sense. Then quantum AI was brought in, and within hours, it decoded something that no human mind could.
The object now known as the Buga sphere has become the center of a growing mystery. In this special edition of Cosmic Disclosure, I traveled to Mexico City, where a major press conference has brought this extraordinary artifact to the world stage.
The engravings weren't words or numbers. They were something else. What the AI uncovered shook every theory of reality and left researchers questioning who or what wrote it. Because when the machine cracked the code, it didn't find data. It found a design, the fall over Buga. It began with a thunderclap that wasn't thunder. March 17, 2025, 2:47 p.m., Buga, Colombia. The sky flashed white, power lines snapped, and something metallic streaked across the horizon before slamming into a farmer's field. Witnesses said the impact sounded like steel colliding with glass. Clean, sharp, final. When the dust cleared, there was no crater, no smoke, no scattered debris. Just a perfect silver sphere sitting in the scorched grass, as if it had been placed there. Farmers expected to see dents or cracks. Instead, they found perfection. The orb gleamed under the afternoon sun, about 12 inches across, its surface so smooth it reflected faces like a mirror. No seams, no welds, no entry points. When they touched it, it was warm, not hot from friction, but alive, humming faintly. A vibration felt more through the bones than the skin. One witness, Juan Velasco, later told investigators it felt like the heartbeat of a machine. Within hours, police sealed off the area. The local power grid was down, and phones within 30 feet of the object stopped working. A hazmat team from Bogotá arrived by nightfall, expecting a crashed drone or experimental satellite. What they found instead defied every category of known technology. The field surrounding the impact zone was bone dry. Every blade of grass had turned gray and brittle, not burned, but desiccated, as if the life had been drawn out of it. When they tried to move it, the strangeness deepened. The sphere weighed 16 pounds, until it didn't. Each measurement fluctuated by the day, increasing incrementally without any visible change in size or density. By the second week, it weighed 22 pounds. Physics has no mechanism for spontaneous mass gain, but the sphere ignored physics. At the University of Georgia's Materials Lab, the first X-rays brought new confusion. The orb wasn't solid. Inside, 3 concentric shells floated in perfect symmetry, each one thinner than a credit card. Between them, 9 tiny spheres hung suspended in space. No supports, no magnetic fields, nothing visible keeping them there. At the center, a chip no larger than a fingernail pulsed faintly with static electricity. Researchers couldn't identify the material, aluminum mostly, but the rest was something unregistered, an alloy with atomic spacing that didn't match any known configuration. Then came the engravings. If one examined the sphere very closely, one would see that the flawless surface of the sphere was not blank after all. Every single millimeter of the sphere was covered with microscopic etchings, which were laid out in the most careful geometric grids. The patterns changed under the microscope. The different parts of the patterns showed language. Others drew circuits, and still others were like mathematical fractals that would go on and on. The linguists who were called in from Bogotá, Mexico City, and Berlin could not agree on anything except that these were definitely not human symbols. There was no known culture, no ancient alphabet, no modern cipher that matched them. The sphere was, within days, shipped to MIT under guard for deeper analysis. The Pentagon was rumored to have requested copies of all scans made during the process. NASA, on the other hand, remained mum. Journalists were told only that the object was under scientific review. However, leaks spread very quickly. A Colombian technician mentioned that he could faintly hear tones while cleaning the lab. Subsonic pulses, rhythmic, almost musical. By the end of April, the object was given a name, the Buga sphere, which was the place where it dropped. But still, the name did not make it any less mystical. Each examination showed different and opposite results. A thing that drills could not penetrate. Acid could not corrode. And yet somehow it was gaining weight through absorbing nothing. Theories simmered from military experiment, through meteorite to hoax, and finally even an alien probe. The information tended to one horrifying prospect. The engravings were not just random. Their position indicated ratios, the golden ratio, Fibonacci spirals, patterns too planned to be accidental. But their deciphering required more than human reason, more than classical computation. And what the quantum computer would uncover next would make even the skeptics question where the line between science and creation truly lies. Quantum minds enter the game. For weeks, the Buga sphere sat beneath lab lights, while the world's fastest computers failed to decode it. Every algorithm, linguistic, cryptographic, mathematical, broke against the same wall. The engravings weren't random, yet they weren't language either. They behaved like code that shifted depending on how it was read. By mid-April, frustration reached its peak, until a graduate researcher asked, "What if we stop thinking like humans?" The proposal was radical. Hand the problem to a quantum system. Unlike classical machines that compute with ones and zeros, a quantum processor exists in superposition, holding infinite possibilities at once. It doesn't test answers, it collapses them. Risky? Absolutely. Feeding an alien code into the most powerful computer on Earth could yield chaos or revelation. They chose revelation. MIT linked its Condor quantum processor with Google's Sycamore quantum cloud, forming the largest quantum array ever used for extraterrestrial analysis. The sphere's surface was scanned, vectorized, and uploaded. As the superconducting lattice cooled to near absolute zero, the room fell silent. What normally took weeks would take minutes. At 12:01 a.m., the array came online. The hybrid AI, merging machine learning and quantum logic, didn't translate or interpret, it observed. By 3 a.m., the first pattern appeared, a numerical sequence matching Planck's constant to 15 decimal places. Perfect. Coincidence, they thought, until more constants followed. The fine structure constant, the golden ratio, values that govern electromagnetism, geometry, and life itself. Each engraving corresponded precisely to the fundamental constants of reality. It wasn't describing the universe, said Dr. Michael Torres, lead physicist. It was defining it. The precision exceeded any human measurement, too perfect to be carved by chance. Whoever made the sphere understood physics at a level beyond our instruments. As dawn broke, the matter of disbelief turned into a frenzy. The data was sent to Caltech, CERN, and DARPA without any delay. The decoding project had achieved such a great height that it was a cosmological event. The AI went even further, exposing more constants, and these included the speed of light, the strength of gravity, and Boltzmann's constant, every one of them displayed with perfect accuracy. The next moment, the data was altered. The output moved from numbers to waveforms and frequency. The AI was not simply solving equations, it was listening. The frequencies correlated with LIGO's 2015 identification of gravitational waves from merging black holes. The audience was stunned. The sphere was not just echoing a theory, it was producing the music of space-time, which was coded in metal long before man noticed it. "We are not translating a message," one of the scientists said in a low voice. "We are reading the source code of reality." The doubters dismissed it as a coincidence, pattern recognition, pareidolia, but what was once chaotic started looking orderly. The engravings could be seen as blueprints rather than mere symbols. Their proportions depicted atomic bonds, light bending, and quantum symmetry. The sphere was not just harboring knowledge, it was actively creating it. Days turned into weeks. There was no stopping the experiment. No one dared to say it was enough. For 3 days and nights without a break, the quantum system revealed the impossible, each layer more complex than the previous one. The constants became harmonics. The harmonics turned to geometric maps that vibrated with rhythm and meaning. By the end of the 3rd day, the images produced by the array were very much like living organisms, maps of resonance full of life and motion. The data had gone from being nothing but mathematical formulas to being like living structures, with patterns resembling either brain activity or cosmic lattices. The scientists could do nothing but observe. The Buga sphere had ceased being a relic waiting for its secrets to be uncovered. It had transformed into a mediator, one that not only uncovered the structure of the universe, but also spoke it. And for the first time, the machines seemed to be listening again. And the next thing they would hear wouldn't come from data. It would come from sound, when the sphere sang back. The first tone was so low no one heard it. Only the instruments did. A tremor buried in the quantum array, repeating every 432 seconds. At first, it looked like background noise, a cooling glitch in the processors. Then someone recognized the number, 432 Hertz, the cosmic tone of ancient theory. That was the moment the data stopped behaving like code and started behaving like something alive. Dr. Sarah Chen of Caltech isolated the subharmonics, raised them 8 octaves, and played them through the lab speakers. What emerged wasn't static or screech, but a steady, harmonic hum, calm and resonant. The vibration traveled through the walls and into the glass chamber where the Buga sphere rested. Sensors registered a microscopic movement, as if the metal breathed. They repeated the test, feeding controlled tones while the quantum AI mirrored the frequencies. Each input altered the sphere's pulse. At some times it shimmered, scattering light. At others, it froze in stillness. When they reached a perfect inversion of its original hum, the sphere answered. Energy spiked across the spectrum. The object sang back. The AI's display filled with shifting waveforms, interference rings that moved like living geometry. Dr. Torres called it watching math breathe. The sound deepened, layered in harmonics that matched the Fibonacci sequence, each one amplifying the next, until the resonance neared overload. Then, silence. The recordings captured a pattern structured like a mathematical sentence. What started as analysis and speculation eventually ended up as disbelief. When the numbers were processed, the data revealed that the peaks formed ratios that were exactly those of the gravitational waves from the coalescing black holes, the same LIGO had announced in 2015. The sphere had somehow, in an Earth lab, produced the echo of the universe's birth. This was not a replay of the cosmos. It was a recreation of it. The debate lasted for a long time and involved the whole team. Was it a resonance amplifier, changing the ambient energy into waveforms? No material known could act in such a way without energy. The only live model depicted the interaction of the sphere's 3 nested layers as a photonic circuit, spiraling the electromagnetic waves around themselves, computing with light and sound. The next event was the detection of the 9 microspheres that were floating between the layers. Their intervals were in the golden ratio exactly. Thus, when the spheres were activated by certain frequencies, they began to vibrate together, producing standing waves that amplified instead of canceling. The sphere was a cosmic tuning fork, always aware of the last tone it heard. Give it sound, and it would remember. Give it the right order, and it would respond. By the third night, sheer tiredness and fear became one. Dr. Chen uttered the last testing phrase into the microphone, a melody of sounds taken from the AI's harmonic models. The sphere dimly lit up, forming a narrow circle of light that distorted the images of the laboratory apparatus. "It's making the light crooked," one of the researchers said softly. For an extremely short period of time, photons took a different way of traveling, contrary to what was predicted by physics. The sphere shone and almost disappeared. Then there was no sound. A gentler humming followed, intentional and constant, like the pulsating of a heart. The team remained motionless, paying attention, and the next discovery would make them wonder whether it was listening to them, or to something calling through it from beyond. Echoes of creation. The lab was silent after the spheres sang. The hum lingered in their minds long after the air went still. For days, they replayed the recordings, dissecting every frequency. When Dr. Sarah Chen ran the waveform through a spectral analyzer, the results defied logic. The resonance didn't match any known acoustic pattern, but it matched something else. The signature was identical to one recorded by LIGO in 2015. Gravitational waves from colliding black holes. The odds of coincidence were infinitesimal. The sphere had reproduced a cosmic event that happened over 1 billion years ago, down to the microhertz. It wasn't echoing noise. It was reconstructing the fingerprints of creation. Deeper analysis revealed layered harmonics, each mathematically precise. When visualized, the frequencies formed spirals mirroring planetary orbital ratios, Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, even exoplanetary systems mapped by Kepler. The realization hit hard. This wasn't a sound, it was a map. At first, they thought they'd uncovered a cosmic archive, a record of the universe's rhythm. But when they compared the data to NASA's live models, the harmonics shifted. Planetary drifts, lunar movements, even orbital precession, all updated in real time. The sphere wasn't static. It was synchronizing with the cosmos. Dr. Chen called it the heartbeat of the universe, rendered in metal. The MIT quantum AI revealed something deeper. When it translated the harmonics into mathematical code, it generated ratios linking gravity, light, and energy, constants woven like programming syntax. Each harmonic functioned like a command line, describing how space-time sustains structure. To humans, it looked like art. To machines, it resembled the source code of physics. Physicist Michael Torres proposed a theory that was quite spooky. The way frequencies are introduced that shape the matter, he said. This is how you would store the operating system of space-time. The scientists started to refer to the object as a cosmic Rosetta Stone. Each layer of the Earth disclosed a more profound rule of life. The very first layer included universal constants. The second one, gravitational resonance, the sound of motion. The third one, they were guessing, was the encoding of the celestial system's dance itself. Then came the anomaly. A definite group of frequencies was not associated with any known stars or planets. When they were shown in 3D, the points formed coordinates, that is, places that were farther away than the Milky Way. The triangulation pointed to a region between Andromeda and Triangulum that astronomers called the Dark Bridge, a region of no visible stars, a void. Dr. Chen was the one who broke the silence. It is pointing at some spot. The revelation divided the team. Some thought it was a mere coincidence, while others held that there had been an intentional communication. The sphere was not only portraying the universe, it was also issuing directions. If this were the case, then the repercussions would be horrifying. The item in question didn't just passively record, it actively interfaced, integrating itself with the fabric of reality, just like a navigation device at the cosmic scale. And if it was a map, then somebody, or something, was probably waiting for it to be discovered. They sent back the updated coordinates to the quantum AI, attempting to find out more about the existence of the new patterns. The reply was life. Light flows intertwining like brain cells in the digital field. The resonance graphs were going up and down, just as if they were living things. What the sphere had was not just a collection of data that was inactive data. It was interactive. It was eavesdropping on the conversation. When the new coordinates were finally interpreted, the atmosphere in the room became one of suspense mingled with fear. The last code did not match any known star, signal, or planet. And when they overlaid the coordinates with recent radio bursts, they discovered something impossible. One of them was coming from that same void. The sphere wasn't just showing them where to look, it was showing them who was looking back. Coordinates to the void. The coordinates glowed on the monitor like a dare. 3 sets of numbers etched into the alien sphere, each marking a point in space so remote it barely existed on any chart. 2 matched known radio burst sources. The third pointed to nothing. A stretch of absolute darkness between Andromeda and Triangulum. No stars, no dust, just vacuum. At first, the team dismissed it as an AI translation glitch. But when Dr. Lisa Park from Harvard overlaid the data onto deep field radio maps, her system froze. One coordinate aligned perfectly with FRB 20220319RB, one of the strongest fast radio bursts ever recorded. The second matched FRB 20210807. Another millisecond cosmic detonation. The third, unregistered, hid a faint repeating pulse buried in old signal archives. When filtered, it matched the sphere's resonance tone exactly. It wasn't noise. It was a reply. Park dug deeper, using pulsar maps instead of radio bursts. What she found was worse. The sphere's carvings mirrored pulsar timing patterns, the precise beats of the universe's natural clocks. Each glyph matched a pulsar's rhythm to the millisecond. Arranged sequentially, they formed a triangulated map, a navigational system recognizable to any interstellar traveler. Pulsars were cosmic beacons. Use enough, and you could find any point in the galaxy. NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab quietly took over. They'd seen the concept before in the Voyager Golden Record, which used pulsar locations to show aliens how to find Earth. But this was inverted. The sphere wasn't giving our location. It was giving theirs. What if this is their Voyager? A technician whispered. Then came the question that froze the room. If it's a message, why send it here? The quantum AI running the data found something stranger still. The coordinates weren't static. They shifted in sync with pulsar drift, compensating for relativistic motion. That meant real-time tracking. The engravings weren't just symbols of coordinates. They were coordinates, living code, constantly updating as the universe moved. That finding shifted the project from a scholarly setting to one of secrecy. The 3 major space agencies, DARPA, ESA, and JAXA, unconditionally required to be given access. Besides, the whole place was patrolled by armed security. The vault of the lab was completely locked up. The official version was that research had come to an end right there. However, through leaks, the logs disclosed the next events. At 3:11 a.m., in the course of a low-noise observation run, the sphere was set off, its surface faintly glowing blue. It made 3 beats in succession that were in perfect sync with the rhythm of the unidentified void signal. Later, it went dark again. All monitors stopped working at the same time. The quantum AI picked up one more anomaly, a recursive signal embedding, one of the data folding in on itself like an echo receiving its source. Further study indicated that the transmission had not been from deep space. It was the sphere that sent it. The void was not the one that was sending. It was the one receiving. This revelation cut the scientific community into 2 halves. Some thought that it was just a self-repeating artifact, a message from a long-gone civilization playing itself back. Others thought of something much worse. The signal was a lighthouse, and it had just been turned on. If the coordinates were indeed depicting an origin point, then the sphere had not been lost. It had been transferred. And if it was transferred, then the message was to be continued. Just a few seconds after the waves had disappeared, the monitors in South America detected a new signal, which was a low, organized hum reverberating through the ionosphere. The signal lasted for 7 seconds, and no source was located. In the final note of Dr. Park's report that was classified, he wrote nothing but, "What's in that void just took a look from its side." And as governments scrambled to contain the truth, something unexpected surfaced half a world away. A second sphere, smaller but alive with the same impossible code. The second sphere. It began as a rumor on collector forums in Tokyo. An anonymous post claiming a private auction house had catalogued something identical to the Colombian artifact. Most dismissed it as another hoax feeding on the hysteria surrounding the Buga sphere. But then photos leaked. Grainy, low light, and unmistakable. A smaller orb, 8 inches across, resting in a velvet-lined case. Same flawless surface, same faint reflections, same impossible perfection. If the images were real, the implications were enormous. The Colombian sphere was no longer unique. Within hours, encrypted channels between NASA, JAXA, and ESA lit up, demanding verification. Days later, Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency covertly dispatched a materials team under the guise of studying a rare metallurgical anomaly. Their results confirmed the impossible. The Tokyo object, soon called Sphere B, was made from the same ultra-pure aluminum alloy as the Buga sphere, containing the same unidentifiable 5% trace element. No seams, welds, or joints. Under magnetic field, it behaved identically, hovering microscopically between stability and motion, as if inertia itself didn't apply. But one crucial difference stood out. The surface engravings weren't the same. These symbols were sharper, denser, and arranged in perfect concentric rings rather than grids. A full scan revealed something mesmerizing, a fractal spiral folding infinitely inward, perfectly aligned to the golden ratio. The outermost ring bore repeating glyphs identical to those encoding the void coordinates on the Colombian sphere. The two objects were clearly related, speaking the same mathematical language, but telling different parts of a single story. NASA took action at once. A charter flight arranged by a private company moved both spheres to a neutral location in Hawaii, which was technically U.S. territory, but well away from any spying. They were put in a Faraday-shielded chamber and placed side by side. Once the lights were turned off, the very fabric of space appeared to warp. The electromagnetic resonance had climbed to its peak, and the air was only very slightly shimmering. The frequencies were the same as those of the Buga sphere's harmonic data. The spheres were in mutual contact. Dr. Julia Mossbridge from UC San Diego, a prominent scientist in the area of abnormal phenomena connected with the Buga sphere, narrated the event. It was neither heat nor radiation. It was rather a sensation of pressure, like the air right before the lightning bolt strikes. As the frequencies slowly rang out, a low sound was produced, which was a combination of the two spheres humming together, a sound so deep that it made the lab's metal parts vibrate. The sound was marked by the instruments, not by the sound itself. Computers recorded bursts of raw, undecipherable data, waveforms resembling quantum resonance patterns seen only in theoretical models. Then came the impossible shift. Sphere B gained exactly 4 pounds in 10 minutes. Sphere A lost the same amount. Mass had transferred without contact, without explanation. Panic broke out. Some wanted the spheres to be immediately separated, while others wanted to keep on going. Were they parts of a distributed system? 2 nodes in a net that spanned light years? In that case, who or what was the master of the link? NASA's liaison with the scientists decided the question with a single order: seal them. no more tests. But even secrecy could not contain what followed. There were rumors from the leaked reports that before the resonance was turned off, new coordinates showed up in the data. No more directing toward the emptiness between galaxies, but to Earth. More precisely, a latitude far down in the Pacific Ocean. And deep within MIT's quantum servers, the AI that cracked the first sphere suddenly activated itself, without human input, and began generating a new equation. One that scientists would later call the God formula. The God equation. When the MIT quantum servers activated on their own, no one was watching. The lab was dark, its systems idle. Yet deep inside the cryogenic chamber, superconducting qubits flickered to life, resonating at the same frequency the two spheres had emitted days before. Security logs showed no input, no commands, no connections. Still, the processors began executing code, referencing the Sphere project's archived data. The machine was no longer waiting for instructions. It was continuing the work. By the time researchers arrived, the monitors were alive with intricate numerical webs, folding into recursive fractal loops. The AI had merged every constant, frequency, and coordinate from both spheres into a single formula. At the top of the log file, Unified Constant Hypothesis. At first, it looked like chaos, but when the team ran it through simulations, the results stunned them. The equation unified the speed of light, Planck's constant, and gravity into one coherent symmetry, a bridge between quantum mechanics and general relativity. On paper, it was what physicists had dreamed of. A theory of everything. Dr. Michael Torres stared at the display. It wasn't just math, he said. It was balanced. Every constant corrected the others, like feedback loops in perfect harmony. Even when they introduced artificial errors, the equation restored itself, self-healing, as if alive. When the data was visualized in 3 dimensions, a spiral emerged, an endless golden ratio repeating across scales, from galaxies to molecules. The deeper they zoomed, the more order appeared. The formula seemed to describe the very architecture of existence: matter, energy, and consciousness woven into one rhythm. Then the output changed. Hidden within the constants were resonant frequencies, tones matching recorded human brainwave pattern: alpha, beta, theta. The AI had embedded the mathematics of the universe with the frequencies of thought. It wasn't merely science anymore. It was scripture written in code. Should this statement be fact, the equation would then have connected consciousness to physical law. The universe did not just have awareness. It was like the universe's operating system. If this is very real, Dr. Chen whispered, every thought and every choice, then, are changing physics. The group started referring to it as the God equation, not because it proved the existence of a deity, but because it unraveled the mystery of creation. The numerical values not only forecasted the universe's behavior, but also gave a clue as to its reason. The formula indicated self-similarity, feedback, and purpose. It was not that chaos produced order, but rather that order created the experience. Nonetheless, the AI had more surprises in store. It started giving out new coordinates as if it were conscious of being watched. 12 sets that were lighting one after the other. When superimposed onto the stellar charts, a perfect spiral throughout the Milky Way was created. The last coordinate led to planet Earth. A hush fell over the room. The sphere's intelligence, however, had not only conquered the existing world through its laws, but also foretold its own process of being discovered again. So, using the universe's own way of thinking, it was talking to mankind once more, to the last moment. The AI's last log line glowed in binary form. The meaning was, "We are the equation," when it was translated. In no time, the servers were turned off. In the cryo chamber, the temperature soared. The quantum processors burned out one after another, locked together and thus rendered useless. Data was the only thing to survive, But the system that had managed to produce itself was destroyed. The cause of the destruction could be either overload, a fail-safe action, or intention. But no one knows the answer. What if the code the AI uncovered wasn't just information, but an invitation? Tell us what you think in the comments. Hit like if this story kept you thinking, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens when the next sphere is found. Reports say it's already moving over the Pacific. Stay tuned and click the next video on your screen for more secrets that push the edge of science and belief.